Here are some useful tips on how to make breakout groups work during a facilitated group discussion. Now, if you've got a bunch of people, maybe 10, 12 or more, it's hard to keep a discussion going amongst that large a group. So you can split people up into smaller breakouts. You can send them off to a different part of the room if you're running a session in person, or online you can set up breakout groups as well. So you can have 3, 4, 5 or more people per breakout group to discuss a particular aspect of, perhaps it's a strategic plan or a new product introduction, or you're dealing with some big issue at work. And that makes a lot of sense. The challenge is when people come to report back. Maybe you've been to one of those sessions where everyone wrote things on a flip chart for 1, 2, 3 pages, and they came back and it took them forever to report back from their breakout group. I was in a session recently. We took 25 minutes in the breakouts, that made sense, but then it took 45 minutes for all the groups to report back. It was agonizing to go through all that kind of detail. So if you're managing these discussions, you want to have some control over what that outcome is going to look like, and so you keep a control on the amount of time that's spent. So here's how to do that. First, have a clear, focused question that everybody's answering. If you say, well, go talk about how we can communicate better, it's not really that focused. So be very clear and focused with what you want them to answer. And then give them a format for their answers. Maybe you say, start with a verb. We're going to create this, or we're going to initiate this, and so on. And give them a limit to how long you want them for each of their answers. Maybe 5 to 10 words. That's all. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you can say quite a bit in just 5 to 10 words. And limit the number of ideas that you're expecting back. They can talk about a whole pile of ideas, but ask them to select maybe the top 3 or the top 5, but not a large number. They should be able to come to that consensus on their own. Ask them not to debate the ideas, but just to choose the top ones. Then, when they come back to the larger session, the plenary session, you give them a time limit. Say, okay, we'd like you to report back in just 2 minutes. And then that focuses their responses. Otherwise, you get people going on, and they're expressing their personal opinions, and we talked about this and we talked about that. We don't want to know what you talked about. We want to know what you concluded. So they come back and you give them a time limit, and if they go over time, then you got to step in a little bit and say, okay, how about finishing up in just 30 seconds or so? Shouldn't be a problem if you've given these clear parameters. And then finally, once they're all done, leave a bit of time for the overall group to react. Maybe they've got something to say about 1 or 2 of the ideas. And if all you do is report back from the groups, you haven't taken advantage of the larger group to provide some input. So, manage those breakout groups well. They can work for you, but don't let them get out of control. And then you can create a lot of synergy through your group discussions.